Welcome to the first video in the series of videos that I'm making for Unit 0. I'm trying to keep all of these less than 5 minutes long so that they're easy to access. So let's get right into this one. Starting off with the scientific method, something that I hope that you are very familiar with at this point. And really, any sort of experiment needs to start with some sort of observation of something that is happening out in the world. Whether it's something that you observe just like in everyday life, or perhaps something that you observe happening in a lab. A hypothesis is a possible explanation for what it is that you are observing, whatever that phenomenon is. And that hypothesis needs to be able to be tested to see if your what you have put forth, it can be used to explain that observation. So if a hypothesis has been tested many, many times by many different experiments, and it has been accepted by the results of the experiments, then that hypothesis could potentially be made into a theory, which again means something different in science than in everyday life. A theory is something that is pretty heavily tested and is a great explanation for a certain phenomenon. Okay, so continuing on, we're going to talk about SI units. Now, these are things that we are going to be using a lot this year. So kilograms, meters, seconds, kelvins, amperes, moles, all 6 of those we are going to be using. Candelas, we are most likely not going to use. So that is one that you don't necessarily need to know, but the 6 above we will be using. Okay, so things like kilograms, grams, that's going to be really important all year, measuring stuff. Meters and seconds for things like speed, which would be meters per second. That's really important for kinetics, okay? And then, of course, temperature for thermodynamics, amperes for whenever we're looking at redox reactions, moles, of course, as a measurement of the amount of something. So those are all going to be very important this year. And then finally, the SI unit prefixes. So these prefixes are going to be used for the units that you saw previously here. You know, kilograms, that already has one of the prefixes. Meters and seconds, you could have a millisecond or a kilometer. So basically what these prefixes are going to do is they are going to take whatever that base unit is, for example, a meter, and it is going to multiply it by some value of 10. So if we're talking about a kilometer, that means that we are taking a meter and we are multiplying that by 10 to the third power. Okay, so a kilometer is 1,000 meters. So we would essentially be taking the 1 meter that we have here, and if we add that prefix of a kilo to it, then that means that we have to multiply that number by 1,000. Okay, if we have a megameter, that's even bigger. That's 1,000 meters. Excuse me, 1 million meters. A gigameter would be 1 billion, and so on. Okay, so these ones in blue, these are the ones that you are most likely going to see this year. Honestly, giga, tera is going to be less frequent, but definitely going to see kilo. And then down here, of course, we're going to see a lot of milli and micro and even nano in certain parts. Okay, so you should recognize a lot of these symbols as normal letters from the alphabet. The only one different here is the micro. Okay, which is a symbol that is known as mu. And whenever I hear that, I always think of Mew, the Pokemon. Yes, I am a really big nerd. But this is Mew as in MEW, the mu that this is the Greek letter mu, which is that, spelled mu. Okay, so this is 1/1,000,000th of a meter or a second. If you had a micrometer or a microsecond, it would be 1/1,000,000th of that unit. One last thing to keep in mind is that mega, milli, we've got a lowercase m and an uppercase m. Giga, tera, these are uppercase, and even going up here to the peta and exa, these are all uppercase, which is helpful for remembering that these are really big numbers, okay? So these are uppercase, and these ones down here are lowercase. So pico and peta, we might not necessarily need to worry about, but again, that's another one that we have lowercase and then uppercase. So make sure that whenever you're doing your SI units that you are paying attention to the case. And that is all for this video.